Good day, good day. We have done many lessons on the name of Joseph. And Joseph means God will add. So, when you have a name like that, one, you believe in all circumstances God will add. It's a life principle. Two, I will not try to add to myself. Three, I will not try to add to myself things that God is not adding. My glory, my success, my promotion, I'm not going to add to myself, God will add. So Joseph thought in his most difficult circumstances that when Mary's issue came up, God will add some kindness out of this to himself and Mary. Then of course there was the Old Testament Joseph. He went through many difficult circumstances, and at the age of 17 when his brothers betrayed him, at the age of 12 he had seen the vision of God. He said, God will add. Joseph, the name means God will add. Then when he was taken as slave, Potiphar, Pharaoh's defense minister, second most rich man in Egypt, he took Joseph, bought him, and then trained him in all the management practices for the things Potiphar had. Potiphar was a very wealthy man, much land, much sheep, and so on. So when Joseph's time came for promotion as Pharaoh's second in command, vice regent, already Jacob had that training because God will add. Joseph kept saying God will add. When at the end of his tenure of office with Potiphar, a bad thing happened to him and he was cast into prison because he held to his morals, he said again, God will add. And what did God add to Old Testament Joseph in the prison? He met the butler of Pharaoh, who later introduced him to Pharaoh. So God added. So that's the principle. Through all things, God works for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. God will add. So when there is a plateau season, you will say God will add. Because at that plateau, there are things to learn before the next step up. And the next step up and the step forward, what will you say? God will add. So when the New Testament Joseph was going through different troubles, for Mary's sake, he had taken upon himself, he said, God will add. Then there were other sons coming, naturally, to Joseph and Mary. There was James and Jude. He trained them well as a father in his own craft, and he trained God's son Jesus also as a well-trained carpenter. So he was known as a carpenter and as the carpenter's son before he took to full-time preaching. And when the natural brothers were having trouble with the spiritual one, Joseph maintained family peace. So things that troubled Mary did not trouble Joseph, because Joseph said, God will add. God will add an avenue of escape. God will add protection. So when Herod threatened the very young holy family, Joseph said, God will add. God will look after. So Joseph lived his name that always God had something more to add. So when you think you have come to the end of your tether, or when you are 70 years old, 80 years old, and you think it's the sunset of your life, maybe, but God will still add another project, another kindness, another something for you to do in God's call, to help someone, be supportive, work from behind the scenes. God will add another season. God will add another door. God will add an extra measure of grace if you are going through adversity. God will add protection. God will add relationships. God will add friends. God will add. Joseph means God will add. Take this for your own sake and for your children. God will add a good future. And when you are stressed about them, just pray over them and prophesy over them. Speak over them, saying, God will add. When your kids are unhappy about staying in Sri Lanka and trying to run away to some other country, speak to them and say, God will add. When you say the wicked prospering and flourishing, don't get jealous. You speak over the situation and say, God will add. I don't have to fret when wicked are prospering. God will add my portion. And that will keep you from jealousy, because you know God will add your portion. And at present you have a portion that is enough. And when trouble comes, you will say, sufficient is the evil of the day, trouble of the day thereunto. It's not going to the next day. God will add grace, God will add peace, God will add strength. What else do you think today God needs to add? God will add friends, God will add good mission partners, God will add to the church. To the New Testament church, he added daily. God will add. Work with the God factor, God adding. Don't be anxious and try to add yourself. And don't try to add to yourself what God is not adding. You'll get into trouble. And God will have to watch and wait because it's not a God project. So don't try to make sandwiches. God didn't ask you to. And make your life motto, God will add. This is how Old Testament Joseph and New Testament Joseph waded through the times. Whatever circumstances came, they said, God will add. Thank you for listening. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis. Today, my little short message was about how God adds. God will add. If you think you are not having visibility enough, people are not recognizing you enough, wait a little, wait patiently. God will add recognition. I've had this situation many times when I did some research on the COVID situation and rest of the acclaimed medical world was not believing it. I just waited because knowing that God will do it in His time. God will add. Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis, and if you need my clips and my normal subject screen brain balance, please send a WhatsApp to 0742115011. And if you need an appointment consultation free of cost for any learning problem a kid may have or digital toxicity, digital addiction, please ask for a consultation free of cost by giving a telephone call to 077-151-2801. Thank you for listening.